Welcome back to the Mini Hoops Podcast. This week's episode, we're going to be talking about NBA Finals Game 3 and 4, some trade rumors around the league, and some of the best and worst trade scenarios with the Cade Cunningham with the Pistons. First, let's get right into Game 3. Fellas, what do you think?
So obviously a super exciting game. Here are some of the notes that I took during the game. Kind of just gonna rattle them off here. The Bucks started in drop coverage. This was something I was looking at that I mentioned in the last episode. I was really watching their defensive schemes and whether they were gonna switch or hedge on screens or do drop coverage or whatever. And they did drop coverage with Lopez in Game 3, but they switched on everything else, at least in the first half. Giannis had 4 assists in the first quarter, which is kind of uncharacteristic of him, but that helped him a lot. Chris Paul is still just unbelievable in the pick and roll. He really is just like the maestro that everyone makes him out to be. Not that I was ever doubting that, but it was just really evident in Game 3 that he just is so good in the pick and roll. With Ayton specifically, Ayton did a good job of taking advantage of mismatches. He was really good in the first half. Switching to the Bucks for a second, Jeff Teague came in again before Bryn Forbes, which has become common for some reason. Jeff Teague, we've talked about him not being a fantastic player. I understand Forbes' defensive limitations, but yeah, that's just kind of weird. I thought Devin Booker looked tired in Game 3. He wasn't really sharp, looked a little sluggish, settled on a few shots, didn't really seem like he was attacking the rim a ton, and that would be super reasonable if he was tired. He's played a ton of minutes, both during the season and in the playoffs, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was just exhausted. Middleton ran the offense more in the first half, as opposed to like Holiday or a different point guard or ball handler. Did a pretty good job. The Suns switched to a zone defense in the third, just to kind of mix things up, especially without DeAndre Ayton. They had to kind of get unique and spice things up a bit to try and make it tough for the Bucks. And then Cam Johnson was huge in the third quarter. He made a couple shots, some energy, and yeah, he was big. So that was what I had for notes on Game 3. What stood out to you guys?
Yeah, I thought this was a good performance by the Bucks. Giannis scored 40 points. He did his thing. It also worked out really well that Booker was struggling for them. Booker only shot 3 for 14, as you said, looked kind of tired out there. Didn't really play well. But it also helped that Drew Holiday probably had his best game of the series so far, offensively at least, with 21 points on fairly efficient shooting. So yeah, they looked good. They were at home, played to the crowd, and it's a good win for them.
Yeah, exactly. My biggest takeaways from it, just the Bucks just played really well in my opinion. I'm still very shocked with Game 3 how Jeff Teague got 14 minutes and Bryn Forbes only got 4. Like I said earlier in the last pod, I thought that Bobby Portis needed more minutes because I think he's a good bench player and can bring some needed energy and that big man off the bench. He really showed it to me in this game. He had 11 points and 8 rebounds and on his 18 minutes limited. But overall, I didn't see him struggle that much on the switches when he had to guard Chris Paul. And that was a big step for me. He did make Chris Paul miss a couple jump shots, I believe. But yeah, overall with the Suns, Booker, he did not shoot well, only with his 10 points. And of course, you gotta have Chris Paul and Ayton play well too. And I guess I'm just rolling back to the Bucks here. Giannis played insane. Dropped that second 41 or 40 point, 10 rebound a game in the series, and he was only the 4 assists off the triple double. So overall, I would like the series to go to 7. In my opinion, it's kind of crazy. What do you think about Game 4?
Just kind of disappointing performances from Suns other than Devin Booker, I think was kind of the story of Game 4. DeAndre Ayton only had 6 points. He was 3 of 9 from the field. He did have 17 rebounds, which is really, really good. But they usually get more scoring from him, and with that, more efficient scoring. Jay Crowder did make 3 threes. He had 15 points and 8 rebounds, so not a bad performance from him. Booker obviously had like 42, 17 of 28 from the field. He didn't make a 3, which was weird. He was 0 of 3 on 3.
Yep.
Chris Paul, it was a really bad game for Chris Paul. 10 points, 5 of 13 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. 7 assists, 4 rebounds, but 5 turnovers, 4 fouls. Not that like fouls are super important, but
He had that costly turnover right at the end of the game.
yeah, one of their 17 turnovers on the night,
Oof.
which was really bad and really kind of uncharacteristic of the Suns team as a whole. Mikal Bridges, really efficient. 3 of 4 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3, 7 points. Bummer that he wasn't able to shoot more, I guess, because he was doing pretty well. Cam Johnson, 10 points, efficient scoring. But Giannis, yeah, he played really, really well again. 26 points, 14 boards. Chris Middleton with the 40 bomb. Yeah, I think Chris Middleton just kind of took over. The Bucks' big 3 showed up big, and that's what stood out to me the most.
Yeah, game 4 is way different in my opinion compared to Game 3. You know, Booker really struggled in Game 3, but he really turned it on in Game 4 with the 17 for 28 shooting. And yeah, it did surprise me that he only shot those 3 3-pointers and didn't make a single one. And then, yeah, we talked about how Chris Paul, you know, he kind of struggled this game. He did have that costly turnover at the end of the game, which kind of made the Suns lose. I'm still happy with Ayton's play. I would like to see him score more. He did shoot 3 of 9. He did have the 17 rebounds though, came in clutch for the team. Jay Crowder and Cam Johnson, I think they played pretty well. I mean, Jay Crowder did shoot 3 for 9 from 3, but he did have 15 points overall in the game with the 8 rebounds. And then Cam Johnson just shoots pretty efficiently every game. And I believe he had that pretty nasty dunk on PJ Tucker. Or is that last game?
Oh yeah.
Yes, I think that was Game 3.
Or Game 3? But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
he
was in
did.
Milwaukee, so yep.
Yeah, he did have that nice dunk on PJ Tucker. I noticed too. But with the Bucks, I kind of called it Bobby Portis getting more minutes. Hyped for the dude. I'm still surprised that Jeff Teague even got minutes and Bryn Forbes didn't play a single minute. And yeah, that's kind of my biggest takeaways. Besides how, you know, during down the stretch, Booker definitely fouled Drew Holiday on that layup.
Yeah, that was a horrible no call.
Yeah, exactly. So Steinman, what do you think about it?
Yeah, that was. I mean, I don't know if you're talking about the call, but that was definitely a foul. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think it would have made a difference because the Bucks still won. So like, I don't know, whatever. But I don't know. Rest should probably step up in the next game. But yeah, Bucks looked good again at home. Giannis, Middleton did their thing. Were able to force a lot of turnovers and win the game.
For sure. Pivoting to our rumors around the league or trade rumors, free agency, whatever you want to call it. A Bleacher Report article from Andy Bailey. He said that the best offer the Sixers are going to get for Simmons is CJ McCollum, a 2023 first-round pick, and maybe a 2024 pick swap. Simmons for McCollum, 2023 first round pick, and maybe a 2024 pick swap is the best offer the Sixers are going to get. And I think that's pretty fair value. I don't think it's like super lopsided or absurd in terms of trade value. But I started to think, I don't know how much better Philly is if they do this. McCollum is obviously a big like upgrade on the wing and would help him a lot. He's not good defensively, so it's kind of, maybe that evens out. I don't know. You get some scoring punch, but you trade away Simmons, who was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate or you swap Simmons for McCollum, who's just not a good defender. Obviously, they have other competent defenders in Thibault and Embiid, and maybe Danny Green resigns, maybe not, but they do have other guys who can make up for it. But I don't know if overall they become a whole lot better if they do this trade. And same with Portland. They will certainly become better defensively, adding Simmons and getting rid of McCollum. But I start to think I don't know if they have enough scoring outside of Dame if they make this move. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe if they deal McCollum, they blow it up and trade Dame and build around Simmons. But so yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how much better either of these teams get if they make this trade. What do you guys think?
Personally, in my opinion, I wouldn't do this trade either. I just feel like McCollum is like, yes, he's a good shooter and he really struggles on defense, but I don't know if he's really worth the Ben Simmons kind of thing. Yes, Philly could use a shooter, and he'd be a better fit alongside Embiid because of his shooting ability. But I don't know if I'd even do this trade if I were Philly. And then I don't know, the Portland, they might want to rebuild with Dame or like trade Dame if they get Simmons. I just don't see why they would do that. You know what I mean? Like, the point of getting Simmons for them to be boosting their defense and to help Dame, in my opinion. But I just don't see this trade happening. Plus, I think that a different team could even offer better than this.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really think this improves the 76ers enough to get rid of Simmons, who's a lot younger than McCollum. And I don't know. I guess they're like really opposite players, so it is definitely a interesting situation. But I don't know. Portland, it doesn't really make sense for them to lose shooting around Dame. And the Sixers, I don't really know how much McCollum actually would benefit them.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to think about here. But sticking on the topic of Simmons, Zach Buckley of Bleacher Report also put out an article called Blockbuster NBA Trades You've Never Thought of. Like I said, it involves Simmons and Oklahoma City and Houston. So it's a 3-team deal where Ben Simmons and Shake Milton go to Oklahoma City. Philly gets Kemba Walker, Eric Gordon, Kenrick Williams, numbers 16, 18, and 34 in this year's draft, a 2024 first-round pick, and a 2025 first-round pick. And then Houston receives George Hill and number 55 from Oklahoma City in this year's draft. So OKC is giving up a lot in this deal in terms of draft capital. So it's 16, 18, 34, and 55 in this draft, and then a 2024 first and a 2025 first. Now, if there was going to be any team to give up this kind of draft capital, it would obviously be OKC because they have like a million first-round picks and just picks in general. So it's not horrible that they're getting rid of it, but I think when I read this and saw this for the first time, I just started to think, are we still undervaluing Simmons? We haven't, and I say we as like collectively as in NBA fans, have not really been able to nail down what his value is, and I feel like it's fluctuated ever since the Sixers season ended. So I don't. It's really just hard to figure out, is this an overpay, or is this accurate? Um, so yeah, what do you guys think about it?
Well, speaking of um, the whole trade in general that you kind of went over, I do think it's kind of an overpay, but I still feel like it's also they're kind of still undervaluing Simmons at the same time. I don't know, I'm really mixed. I have mixed emotions on this trade. That's why it's articles perfectly blockbusters NBA trades that you've never thought of. I personally don't even know if I would do this if I were Philly, or even with the OKC's perspective, because you're giving up so much draft capital. 16, 18, 34, and 55, plus 2 future first-round picks for Simmons and Milton. I do like the fit of Simmons and Shea with that young core and all the other picks they have with 6 and future assets. I think Houston's just in there to throw away and get some salary relief, but I'm really mixed. I have a really mixed opinion on this trade.
Yeah, I agree kind of. I agree that it's not a good move for Philly. I don't know why they would need to receive a bunch of picks unless they would turn around and flip those for someone else. Because I don't think Kemba and Eric Gordon are that much of an improvement. I said the same thing about the last trade, but yeah, like I guess if you're gonna try and flip those picks into something else, then I'd be for that. But if I'm OKC, I would probably consider doing this because 16, 18, 34 in this year's draft, I mean, they're not like the most valuable pick, so I don't know, you're getting a star player for, a draft pick, which is always a hit or miss. So I don't know. That seems like a good deal for OKC in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree when you say that the draft capital that OKC is giving out is likely not going to amount to the talent level of Simmons. Obviously, Simmons was number 1 overall pick, and guys in the 16 to 16, 18, 34, you could maybe get some role players or like some draft and stash guys. Not that it would really make sense for Philly to do draft and stash guys, but yeah, I think they would certainly package this to go and get someone else. Um, their title window is now, and I think if they were able to package those, I would be really excited to see what they get in return. Like, I don't know if they go and get a guy like Bradley Beal or something. That would be tough now that they don't have Simmons, Milton, and George Hill to kind of match salary, or just toss them into a deal. Or maybe they go and get like McCollum and just give him picks, and maybe, I don't know, like Thibault or Maxey for young talent, something like that. But I think this could be really good um, value for Philly. Eric Gordon, I'm sure he's going to be a free agent soon, like after this year or maybe the next. So he's not like a super uh, important piece. Kemba would be the point guard they need. I have my doubts about Kemba, but he would certainly kind of fill that hole at point guard if he can stay on the floor. Um, but yeah, I'd be super interested to see what they could get for those picks and how they could kind of round out the roster with these new assets that they have.
Kind of going back on what you just said with how like Philly could use these to flip. I feel like their whole cap situation is kind of fucked over right now. That if they were to flip these assets they just received, they'd also have to flip Kemba, as their cap situation is kind of dead. And I feel like the filler with the Eric Gordon and Kemba will kind of make the Ben Simmons contract match, right? So they couldn't really just add another superstar player. They'd have to get rid of one of those. To kind of, I don't know, just see. I mean, if I were to see, I'd consider this. But like I said, it's just it's some dude's opinion on a blockbuster trade that nobody ever thought of. And if somehow this comes into fruition, that I don't know, I'm still really mixed opinions on it, but I guess I still would consider it if I were OKC. And kind of shifting over from whole trade rumors and stuff, there's been some possibilities with how Detroit might even trade the first overall pick. According to The Athletic, they have made some mock trades, and I kind of want to go over them, and I want to get you guys' opinion on the best and the worst in your opinion. So the first trade is with the New Orleans Pelicans. So the Pelicans would trade Brandon Ingram, this 10th pick in the draft, for the number 1 pick, Corey Joseph, Mason Plumlee, and Josh Jackson. The second one was with the Sacramento Kings, and the Kings would trade Tyrese Halliburton, the number 9 pick, and their 2023 future first-round pick for the number 1 pick and Mason Plumlee. Then we got Orlando. Orlando would trade number 5 and 8 in this year's draft, as well as Wendell Carter Jr. for the number 1 pick in Mason Plumlee. And then we have the Warriors. They would trade 7 and 14, and also James Wiseman for the number 1 pick in Mason Plumlee. And then you got OKC with the trading the 6th pick and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander for the number 1 pick straight up. And then I also got Toronto with the 4th pick, OG Anunoby to the Pistons for the number 1 pick, Mason Plumlee and Corey Joseph. And lastly, 2 more to go, sorry. Cavs with the 22 pick and Isaac Okoro for the number 1 pick. And lastly, Houston would trade number 2, the number 23, and its own first-round pick in 2023 for the number 1 pick. Going over those, boys, if you need me to repeat them, go right ahead. But overall, what do you think the best and the worst one out of those trades are?
Well, we lost you with connection on the Cavs one, but I think I got the gist of it. It was like Okoro, and I'm sure
It was
3rd overall pick, probably.
It was the 3rd overall pick, a future 2023 first-round pick, and Isaac Okoro.
Okay. Yeah, the one that stood out to me the most, or just that caught my attention, was the Oklahoma City one, of course. Shea going to Detroit. That would be a big acquisition for Detroit. I would have question marks about how he fits their timeline. They are not going to be good anytime soon, or at least next year, or maybe the year after. They do have some good rookies, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey. If they were to add Shea Gilgeous with Killian Hayes, that'd be an interesting backcourt. So it would certainly be a good addition. I have questions about their fit, but yeah, certainly intriguing. The Warriors one is super interesting as well. 7, 14, and Wiseman. It's pretty decent value, I think, for the number 1 overall pick. Maybe I think you could argue that they're not getting enough still, just because 7 and 14, I don't know if that's, Cade is rumored to be like a superstar, like a franchise cornerstone. And I guess you could argue that Wiseman could be as well. I don't really think that. I think I'm a little bit lower on Wiseman than most. But that'd be a hell of a move for Golden State. So that one's really interesting as well. Those are the 2 that stood out the most to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think probably the best one for Detroit would be with Golden State, because I think Wiseman plus 2 lottery picks, definitely really good value. But I don't really know. I guess the Warriors, it would kind of make sense bringing like a really young guy to pair with your 30-year-old superstars. That would be a little interesting. Kind of what they did with Wiseman though last year, but I don't know. That'd probably be the best value for Detroit, along with Oklahoma City. I also thought maybe like the Rockets. Just if you don't believe in Cade, just getting number 2 and maybe a couple more picks in there. I don't know. I honestly don't think Detroit should really move the pick unless they really don't like Cade for some reason.
Yeah, I agree. I was just about to toss that in
I
too. Just
also
on the
agree.
record, I think they should keep the pick and take Cade.
Yeah.
Yeah, after reading this kind of out to you guys, the worst offer to me, I think, is with OKC. I think you're giving up way too much when you do number 6 and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander for just the number 1 pick. Because, I mean, Cade could be this super good talent, but you have Shea's a borderline all-star right now, and it's so many question marks plus the 6th overall pick. If I'm OKC, I'd want to build around Shea and maybe try to figure out to acquire the number 1 pick without giving up him. The Warriors one always intrigues me. I'm not down on Wiseman yet, and he got hurt his rookie year. I still think he could be great as a great center in the league. Yeah. Think of another one. The Kings one kind of intrigues me as well because, like, the same thing with Tyrese Halliburton going great potential last year, but I don't know if I'm Detroit, I'm not doing Halliburton number 9 or in the future first for Kate Cunningham, basically.
Mhm.
Like I'm
Yeah,
saying, if I'm them, I'm just not trading Kate Cunningham regardless.
right. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
The Orlando one too, now that I think of it, is if we're talking value, that's got to be up there as well.
5 and
Number
8
f- number
with
5,
L.
8, and Wendell Carter. Um, Wendell Carter's hasn't been fantastic in his few years in the league, but um, maybe you take a shot on him if you're Detroit and just to see what happens. They might have a bit of a crowded front court there with Stewart and Bay if you throw
Mm-hmm.
in Carter as well, and they do have Mason Plumlee as well. Not that he's going to be like a part of their future, their long-term future or anything, but gets to be a little bit crowded. But 5 and 8 is really good draft capital.
I
So
think they'd be giving up Plumlee with the first overall pick in that trade.
okay.
And then the last one that just kind of intrigues me is the Pelicans one with Brandon Ingram in the 10th pick for number 1 and Corey Joseph and Mason Plumlee and Josh Jackson. I don't know. It's kind of weird how it just seems how like Brandon Ingram, he's this. I mean, he was an all-star this year. It just I don't know what his value really would be. Like, I think he's a good player in the league, but I don't know if I'd even accept this trade because I mean, you're getting the all-star, but I don't know if it's still worth the potential with Cade.
Crazy that Brandon Ingram is just as old as Shea. They're both
Yeah,
23.
that is
I
crazy.
thought that Ingram was a lot older. I was about to say that Brandon Ingram doesn't really fit the timeline for Detroit, but you know, I guess you could argue that he does.
hmm
So
I don't know. It's just weird to me. I don't know. This is really all these trades are really intriguing. Um, I mean, there's a couple that are stand out more than others, but overall, it's just kind of weird to see like the Pistons would even. I mean, the Pistons aren't obviously these are fake trades, so not really considering them. But I mean, I don't think they should trade the first overall pick regardless, like we've said before. But these are just intriguing mock trades that maybe a team would offer.
right. Yeah, the annual mock trades for the number 1 overall pick are always fun. Timberwolves
hmm
fans got them last year. Um, and they were always fun to dive into. So it was good to bring them up and just kind of see what's going on there.
So yeah, is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we end the pod today?
Yeah, I just read that the Team USA exhibition game versus Australia is gonna get like canceled for, I guess, health and safety protocols. Looks like Bradley Beal and Jeremy Grant are for sure gonna be out for some time. I don't really know if this is a huge deal, but it's kind of interesting to bring up. There might be an issue with COVID going into the Olympics. I guess not surprising, but it'll be weird to see what happens.
Right. I think this just means that Zach LaVine will probably get more run for Team USA. And as a Timberwolves fan, my mind goes to Anthony Edwards potentially being called up to Team USA if he had not sprained his ankle. It would have been really fun to see him get some run with the team. So it's kind of a bummer that he doesn't have that opportunity. Same with Naz Reid too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he would have got some backup minutes too, or a little bit of action at least.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
Then
It's
we
kind
gotta
of.
watch. Yeah, instead we gotta watch Keldon Johnson.
It would have been way more interesting to see Ant and Nas potentially being able to play with this year's Team USA team. It stinks because that Team USA may lose Bradley Beal and Jeremy Grant for the whole Olympics in general. So yeah, that's been another episode of the Mini Hoops Pod, and we'll see you in the next one.